Welcome back, YouTube. J-Bob, the video game slob, fixing up the rest of the manuals and books that was sitting in that tub on my floor for the last forever and a day. And found some really cool stuff in there, so I'm hoping you'll enjoy. Come along for the ride. We'll just keep making piles here and working through things. The next step in Atari graphics, which is literally the most boring book ever, sounds like it'd be really cool. It is not. But here we go. Here's the good stuff. Awesome games for your Atari computer. Just love the graphics of the card coming out of a Mesa for some reason. It wasn't even Photoshop back then, and then the Atari 400 machine there, just like chilling out, and some definitely some really cool graphics to kind of at least give you some sense of like what's going on maybe in some of these games, but there you go. I don't want to spend all day on those. I love the graphics on this one. Atari Basic, learning by using, with the little spaceman, who looks like he could have been in The Wizard of Oz, frankly. And, of course, pyramids mean the future and technology, of course, because they were from the past, so, naturally, they're the symbol of the future for some reason. I don't know. But there you go. That was a fun one. This one definitely has some damage to it. 100 programming tips and tricks. Games for your Atari computer. Yeah, this is how games used to be. You didn't go to the store and buy a game. You went to the store and bought a book, and then you built your own damn game. So, there you go. I'm not so sure you could make a game called City Bomb anymore. I don't think that would go over too well. But there you go. Here's another great one. The cover art on this is just fantastic. Games for the Atari. It must be European, but it has the dollar sign, so I don't know exactly what's going on there. And then there's just this woman whose nudity is hidden by the Atari 800. And, that's a particular face and angle. It was a choice. But yeah, you get the awesome programs like backgammon. So who could argue with that? I mean, it's the finest, that they could come up with. And look at the graphics in this one. Super boring. Just terrible. 101 Atari programming tips and tricks. Again, kind of a boring one. I love the old gray color scheme that they had. It's just so drab and just would not stand out at all. And was $16.95, so quite expensive. I mean, $16.95, today I think people would complain if a video game was $16.95. Imagine adjusted for inflation, that's probably closer to 35 or 40 bucks. And then you have to program the game after all that. But this stuff, I love collecting these things. I'm glad these made their way into my collection. I tend to find them 1 and 2s here and there throughout the year. But yeah, it's just like this stuff is just impossible to find. And you wouldn't want to pay the shipping every time. And this was really great. They had these color photos like, here's what you can do if you get really good in practice. Make a car. There you go. That's the exciting thing you can do. Now, is that a sailboat? Well, I don't know. Hard to tell without the magic eye exactly what that is. The Atari experience from KB Toys. That's right. This was in a toy store. As a kid, you were expected to be able to do this stuff. And so there you go. There's a childhood if you were slightly older than me. This one was great, I thought, just because it's DOS 3. People always forget that there were different versions of DOS nowadays. I think people think of DOS as a monolith, or maybe even just DOS 6. But there you go, an old book, that. And if you're real hardcore and you don't want to program in BASIC, we have the Machine Learning for Beginners, which was just a scant $14.95 back in the day. So you can get way down, way down into the minutia, into how to build programs. You can certainly build more efficiently and use the memory better if you're good at it, anyway, using machine language. It wouldn't shock me. A lot of these books, as I was kind of like passing by, I was looking them up sort of casually. If they do sell sometimes for like 20 bucks because they're just very rare or are unusual, and it wouldn't shock me if a machine language book has some kind of value to it. Great art there, very, I don't know, alien invaders kind of a thing, space invaders, and close encounters of the third kind, but it lacks that same visual acuity inside. Another one here with fantastic graphics. Your easy guide to the Atari. Look at the genie. He's so happy. It's just so easy. Just write all your own programs and then save them onto cassette tape. Life will never get better than this. Unless you have an Atari XL. The user's handbook here, and I just love the graphics there. I love that they put it on that cool see-through stand, lucite or something like that. Just great design aesthetic on the cover of that. But, you know, maybe you're not into QBasic, maybe you're into DBasic. The DTAC, they got you covered for the Atari ST. And again, cool just to see Atari ST stuff and Atari ST user's guide there. So there's some of the books. I culled some of the more boring pieces of print literature out, and some of it just went in the trash, but this one is really cool. It's got the Gutenberg press, you know, it's print master. It probably doesn't show up exactly, but yeah, there you go. You can kind of see it has this great textured, high-quality print to it, and just showing you all the really cool, you know, graphics and what they used to be. I can just imagine this stuff, you know, printed out on tractor feed, yeah, put up in your high school, you know, or at your mom's, you know, place of work, all that really cool stuff. And the same thing here, just that you can kind of see it. It's I don't know what the name for that kind of paper is. I'm sure, you know, there are people out there who are dilettantes that are calling me a Philistine for not knowing this. But again, just having the, you know, these weren't even emojis back then. You know, this was just the gallery. There you go. What sums it up better than the, you know, we were into the space age, moving away, that kind of thing. Yeah, so these were really cool. The 1991 SSI catalog, you know, they are the ones that did all the cool Dungeons and Dragons games that everybody still loves to pick up and find in those gold boxes. And so, yeah, here's some of those. Over 150,000 sold. I mean, we think of Dungeons and Dragons as maybe being a nerd thing or something that wasn't that popular back then. I mean, these games are selling 250,000 copies. So, you know, that is nothing to scoff at. And then, of course, if you need it, they'll even sell you the guidebooks. So if you think guidebooks were a newer invention, there you go. You can avail yourself of such notions there. Oops, and we're losing it. Interceptor, you know, more fantasy games. You get Dungeons and Dragons Hillspar, which I think ended up coming out onto the NES and may have some value. I can't remember. I had a tough time keeping all those games straight. There were so many of them. But yeah, it was really cool that they kept, you know, like Origin PC Times of Lore. I think that's another NES one. You know, they were the makers of the Ultima series, of course, so great to see that. Micro Prose, what was going on in Micro Prose here? Conflict in Vietnam. Boy, that sounds exciting. Everybody wanted to do that. NATO Commander. The Kennedy Approach. Wow, just riveting titles there from Micro Prose. Yeah. Sim City, Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego. All that kind of stuff. From Broderbund. What was CBS making? I bet it's a bunch of Sesame Street trash. Let's see if that's right. Yeah, Sesame Street trash. Who knew? Now, all their stuff I always found to be, you know, fairly boring. Cocoa Notes, some kind of musical software, I'm guessing. Dinosaur Dig. You know, that one might have been cool when you were a kid. It doesn't ring a bell. I don't remember playing that one. I thought this was great. Preppy. And it's a manual for a game about a frog who plays golf. But what's crazy about this is look at the lore. I mean, this has pages and pages of backstory for that game. Who needed it? Manuals were just so much cooler back then, of course. And so the manual for Defender, way cooler here than it ever was on the Atari 2600. And so, yeah, a lot of times, unless you're familiar with some of the backstory on the stuff like Centipede, you know, I believe Centipede had the album you could go listen to the story on, but yeah, people forget that. Pac-Man looking pretty fresh there. The game everybody hated, E.T., but there you go for the Atari 400 series. The APX game library, including Equestrian. But it's just funny, one guy made it. There you go, Al Casper. He was the one that made that game. Again, a really cool paper to touch. It's hard to communicate that through the camera. But your local Apple and Atari dealer mailer coming to your house. I thought this was just too much fun. Obviously, it had some water damage. Looks like coffee got spilled on it at one time. But just look at how they imagined you would be using your disk drive, your computer and monitor. It'd be right there at the kitchen table. Just loving families. Yeah. Atari 400 computers. Oh, this one I thought was just so banal. It was interesting. Try this program out. Audit your utility bill. Boy, I can't wait to hand type a program to audit my utility bills. Nowadays that'd just be a commercial that says, we can find all your reoccurring bills and save you money because you didn't stop your Netflix account, and they keep billing you. Master Type, probably the greatest artwork for a game that's entirely boring. Great game there, Spider Invasion. Oh, I love this one. The manual for the Atari Megafile hard disk. Yeah, folks, that's true. That thing could hold 20 whole megabytes. That was a 20 megabyte hard drive. I know, hold on, but it's true. And this person had written down the Detroit Atari Club. And if you thought this was niche stuff, again for nerds, the Detroit Atari Club had 1,100 members in it. And then here he had written himself a note, maybe, a program to write. Movies, domestic and foreign release theatrical movies. Maybe movies that were made for TV, but no, don't include those X-rated films. So I don't want to mess that up. This was an interesting piece. I'm not exactly sure when this came out, but somebody had made parts for the Atari CX40, the standard joystick, and those buttons, not buttons, but the dome sections wear out. So there you go. This guy bought 200 of them. I guess he was going to fix a whole bunch of those. There you go. Another DOS 3 manual. Blowout prices. Get video games $2.99 each. Must have been during the video game crash. And then just a bunch of boring manuals here. But the coup de grace, the thing you've been waiting for, in this was this advertisement. Let's see if we can get this centered up. For the Atari 1450 XLD. So you're probably familiar with the XL line. And of course this one was supposed to have a built-in disk drive to get the XLD. It would have had a modem, a speech synthesizer, 256 colors and 4 voices. Would have been absolutely insane. Of course, this was all proposed in 1983 and never actually happened. But you can see the prototype there. And so I only saw one manual like this, but it wasn't this one. It was something different. It was out of Germany that was ever produced for this on eBay. I didn't see anything after a quick look on Atari Age either. So I don't know if this may be like the only one of these, that exists. I'm not sure. So it's always cool to have a piece like this in your collection that isn't on eBay, hasn't showed up on eBay in 3 years. And you go, oh, there you go, 1983. Is this something super rare that we found? Is it, who cares? But to me, I think it's always interesting to find pamphlets or literature for a, piece of technology, a game, a computer, a system, whatever it was. It just never came out. So there you go. Rush out, to your local retailer, see if they have an Atari 1450 XLD for you. J. Bob, the Video Game Slob, over and out.